We're here. Hello, everybody. It's me, Fran Lewis. This is MJ Network on Rush Team. And Phillip Margolin is here and waits to hear about his book, which is False Witness. And I have to tell you that three of my doctor's offices made me buy them copies of it. And my pharmacist called me yesterday. He said he couldn't put it down. So everybody's reading it. Now, this is a brand new character who I love. Let me put on my reading glasses. How did you create? I mean, she's definitely not Robin, but she's stronger than Robin.
Well, I had written 7 Robin Lockwoods, and my publisher thought that it'd be good just to get away from Robin for a little bit.
Yeah.
So they asked me to do a couple of standalones. So I did an insignificant case, which came out last year as a standalone. And then I was trying to think about the next book, and there were two things that inspired it. Um, I was a criminal defense lawyer for 25 years,
Mm.
and when I started out, when I was doing that, I did like 30 homicide cases. I did death penalty cases, argued in the Supreme Court. But some of my weirder, more interesting cases were small ones. Uh, when I started out, got a lot of court-appointed cases because when you start out, you have no clients. So there in Oregon, where I practice, they have a list, and if you want to take cases uh, that the court appoints you on, they're for people who can't afford a lawyer. Uh,
Yeah.
it gives you very good experience. So I had this very unusual case, and every person who gets arrested with stolen goods has the same BS story. And that
Yeah.
is, I was in a bar and I met this guy, Bill, who I don't remember his last name. And he had a TV and he said he'd sell it to me and it was really cheap. So I bought it and I didn't know it was stolen. And of course, it always turns out it was stolen. Then you ask him, what was Bill's last name? Oh, I don't remember. Anything you tell me, well, he had a blue car, that type of thing. So I was appointed to represent this guy, and he was arrested driving a stolen car all over Portland.
Yeah.
And so I asked him, well, how did that happen? He said, well, I was in jail and I met this guy and we got friendly. And then a couple of months after I got out, I was only in for a short time. A couple of months after I got out, I was walking down the street and I saw this guy again, and he was really dressed nicely. So we started talking, and he invited me into this tavern to get a lunch, and he paid for it and some beers. And as we were talking, the waitress came up, and I said, "Well, what was her name?" And she says, "It was either Candy or Cindy. I don't really remember exactly." But she said that she was had a problem. She had to had to move from one apartment to another and didn't have a car. So this guy, and I said, "Well, what was the guy's name?" He said, "His name was Bill." I said, "Do you remember his last?" No, I don't remember his last name. So he told me that he felt he'd had too much to drink, and he gave me the keys to his car, and he said, "You help Cindy or Candy move, and then come back with the car." So I helped her, and when I came back, he wasn't there. And he had told me that he had an RV that was parked in the Red Lion parking lot. So I drove over there, and there was no RV. So I've been driving around Portland looking for him for the last couple of days. So, I immediately thought that this guy was full of it. Because he couldn't give me any other information, didn't know the guy's last name. So, but I had when you're representing someone, you have to assume they're innocent. You try to help them out. So I had my investigator come in, and we knew the name of the tavern was very close to the courthouse. I said, go over and see if you can find Cindy or Candy, and see if she remembers this. So my investigator came back and he said, I talked to the owner of the tavern. They never had a waitress named Cindy or Candy. So we just sort of assumed that this was nonsense. Also, in the glove compartment of the stolen car were stolen credit cards. So anyway, it just sat there. It was going to go to trial very shortly after Christmas, and a couple of days before Christmas, the client came back and he said, "I just remembered it wasn't Cindy or Candy. It was, I think, Charlotte or something."
Yeah.
So I sent my investigator back, and he's gone for a couple of days, and then he comes back with this amazing story. He said, I went to the tavern, and they did have a Charlotte. She wasn't working there anymore, but she worked on the day that this guy claimed he got the car. But they had her address, and I went to her house or apartment, whatever, and she said, yeah, that's exactly what happened. So then he somehow figured out that the guy who uh, that they had figured out who had stolen these credit cards, and he went to Lake Oswego detectives. Lake Oswego is a small town outside of Portland, and he asked him about the guy that had this was arrested for the stolen credit cards. Said, "Oh yeah, we know who this guy is. He has an MO. He steals things. He's like Robin Hood, and then he gives them to people." And he said, right now, there's a guy who was caught with a stolen RV. And, so my investigator talked to him and he said, yeah, and he gave him he knew the last name of the guy. And now we did too. So if someone's represented, you have to ask their lawyer for permission to talk to them. And it turns out, this guy was in the penitentiary and he had a lawyer. Well, I kept on calling him, sending him letters, it's back before email. And he never got back to me. So on Christmas Eve, I said, well, enough's enough. This trial's coming up next week. So my investigator and I on Christmas Eve drove down to the Oregon State Penitentiary. And we met with this guy and I didn't tell him anything. I just said, did you know this fellow? And he said, yeah, I knew him. I said, how did you meet him? And he said, I was walking down the street and I saw him and I knew him from jail and I gave him the car, et cetera. So this story that I thought was just an absolute load of crap turned out to be 100% true. We went to trial. I got not guilty. The guy was acquitted. We brought the waitress in and everything, and she attested to the fact that he had been given the car, and the jury came back not guilty. So in my book, False Witness, I have this character, Jack Blackburn, who's not very bright, and he's arrested for driving a $150,000 Jaguar around Portland that he claims was given to him by this guy in a bar whose name was Bill. So I used that. Also, and this was really fun for me, right around the time I was trying to think up the story, the United States Congress held hearings on whether unidentified flying objects really exist. There are people that claim that the government has crashed UFOs and alien bodies, corpses that they're hiding someplace. So this is one of the most fun things I've ever had happen. So I thought to myself, I'm going to have a congressman who claims he was abducted by aliens. But I know there are a lot of people who do claim it. So I was wondering, some of them obviously are lying, but what if they really believe it? Is there an explanation? So I have a very bright grandson, who was 14 at the time. His name's Lutz. That's his nickname. His real name's Charles, but his nickname's Lutz. And Portland Public Schools had a strike. And so he was home doing nothing. And I called him up and I said, look, you're sitting on your butt doing nothing. You want to do some research for me for a book? And he said, sure. So I said, I'd like you to research and tell me an explanation. If someone claims they were abducted by aliens and they honestly believe it, what's the explanation? And all the research in the book was done by Lutz, and I gave him a good plug in the acknowledgments.
That is so cool.
So anyway, getting back to Karen Wyatt, who's the sort of main
Oh, I love
character.
her. I love her.
So where did I get the idea for her? So I needed something to tie all these elements together.
Yeah.
And guy Jack Blackburn gets arrested. He's going to need a lawyer. And then I was trying to think of a really compelling backstory for an attorney. And I thought, I'm going to have Karen win a very serious case by showing that there's corruption in the police department and the DA's office. And then that creates a lot of enemies. And she's framed for a crime she didn't commit, gets disbarred, sentenced to prison for 10 years for drug possession. But when the book starts, it's her post-conviction hearing, and one of the conspirators have been caught for another crime and confessed that he set her up. So when the book starts, it's a prologue. It's about 3 years before the main action. And so I have Karen vindicated, and in the book, she's trying to find out the person who framed her. And also, as a result of false imprisonment, she sues and becomes a multimillionaire. So I set her up as someone who is independently wealthy and can take cases not because she needs the money, but because she believes the people she's representing are innocent. So that was sort of the background on how I decided to create Karen Wyatt, who's the main character in the book.
First of all, I could have used her as my lawyer.
That's a long-winded answer to your short
question. I think that she is absolutely fantastic because she's like Robin Lockwood would destroy you in a minute. She was worse. She was tougher. I liked her.
Well,
so she got her conviction weird. Now this got me. Thomas Hogan, who was assigned to him, and how did why was he think that he saw aliens? That's the fun part of the book. I love that.
Yeah, and again, that's where I got the inspiration for that character, was from the actual hearings at the U.S.
Yeah.
But I can't say why he claims that, because that would give away one of the big plots.
Yeah, we can't do that. It's radio.
Yeah, because the reason that he believes that he was kidnapped is one of the major plot twists in the book. So there's a couple of things going on here. I love reading a book where there are a bunch of stories going on that don't appear to have anything to do with each other. And then you find out that they're all interconnected. And so that was the structure I set up for False Witness. You have Karen, who gets out of prison right away and vows revenge. She's going to hunt down the people who framed her. You got Jack Blackburn, who gets arrested for stealing the Jaguar. You got this congressman who claims he's abducted by aliens.
Yes.
And what I'm hoping is the reader will say, what the hell does this have to do? Why, what's going on here? What do these things have to do?
Yeah, I know.
And then I slowly bring them all together so that it actually makes sense by the end of the book. But like I said, I love reading books like that where I say, what what's the writer doing? This doesn't have anything. What's the aliens have to do with stealing the Jaguar? But they actually all tie up, and I really enjoyed setting the book up so that the reader is hopefully puzzled at the beginning, saying what, and
I
then
said that throughout the entire book. I go like, huh? I mean, there's so many characters in here that I don't want to give them away. But I do have to bring the book to somebody when I'm done. Yes, I am going to my eye doctor to get new glasses so I look human. Three new pairs of distance glasses because I get bored. And one of the girls said you have to bring the book.
well,
That they loved it. Oh my God! I mean, I couldn't believe. I walked into the pharmacy and Anthony said I couldn't put it down. He asked for your book.
well, that's the biggest compliment a writer can
Yeah, it
get.
is. Yeah, because he wanted Peter James is coming on next Monday. Believe it or not, and he wanted your book first.
Ah,
And he told me that I couldn't come for anything my meds if I didn't have the book. And I have to bring him some more books on Wednesday when I pick up something else. He's like, I get so excited because people don't read. So
well, yeah, go ahead.
now we meet Laurie Post. And this is where it gets interesting. How did Karen get back into defending people?
Oh,
I
well,
love her.
the reason she gets back in is because, uh, she loved being a criminal defense
Yeah.
lawyer. So, she wanted to continue doing it. And of course, once, like as I said, once she gets out of prison, her lawsuit gets settled. She can now have the luxury of just representing anyone she wants. And Lori Post is an abused. Uh,
Mm.
uh, she has an abusive boyfriend, and she's been arrested for assaulting him. So this is a case that really doesn't carry over to the rest of the book, but I used it to bring the reader back into Karen's life because the prologue where she gets out of prison, that's about 3 years before the real action takes place. So I wanted to show this case that Karen defends to give the reader, bring the reader up to date on where Karen's living, what she's doing with herself, and so it sort of reintroduces her to the reader in the present part of the book.
Did she want to take this case? I wasn't sure about Lori, to be honest. She
Oh
gave me that
yeah,
whole question mark. Did she want the case?
yeah, and actually, just going back, where do you get your
Yeah.
inspiration from? Uh, I had a I had a number of really amazing cases during the 25 years that I was a criminal defense lawyer. But one of the things that I'm most proud of, back in 1979, 1980, I was representing a woman who was horribly abused and had murdered her husband. And back back in the 70s, if a man and a woman were living together in an abusive relationship,
Yeah.
uh, everyone sort of assumed that it was sex, that they enjoyed beating each other, that it was a sadomasochistic relationship, and both of them liked it, which was nonsense. But that was actually the common thought back then. Nowadays, most people would say, "Well, that's ridiculous," but that's that was I was in the DA's office when we had a number of cases like that, and everyone just sort of said, "Ah, well, if they want to beat each other up, that's their problem." So when I got appointed to this case, I found out about the battered women syndrome, and it was
Yeah.
brand new back at that time. And so I was the pioneer in Oregon who introduced the battered women's syndrome defense. And I represented four women at various points in my career who were abused spouses who killed abusive husbands. And then I used to lecture on it. So I haven't had a book that was completely about an abused wife, but um, I was able to use, pull on some of my prior experience as a lawyer to set up this case with Lori Post.
I do know because I had parents in my school that were battered, and I knew at times when they came in that they had marks on their face or whatever, and I reported it. Because
Yeah,
you have as an educator, it's the hardest thing. If a child looked abused, I had to call the police right then and there. If I never, and you know what? They thank me every single time. So yeah, I do know. Now come to another character. Who is Maury, and how did he lose his eyesight? And what about the lamp? And then the investigator in this book, is he like your investigator, Morris?
well,
I
Morris.
love this guy.
Yeah, Morris Johnson. So, um, uh, what happens is when they at the in the prologue when Karen Wyatt is freed from prison, nobody from the district attorney's office shows up to apologize, and only one person shows up from the police department, and
Mm,
that's Morris Johnson, and he's the detective who arrested her when she was charged with a drug offense. And years later, when she sets up her, when she begins setting up her law office, she needs an investigator,
yeah,
and she finds out that because Morris defended her, he's been ostracized in the Portland Police Bureau, hasn't been promoted. And he turns out he's a really terrific investigator, really great detective. So she's now a multimillionaire, and she offers him a salary at 3 times what he was getting as a policeman
yeah.
to come over and be her investigator. Now, I was really lucky when I was practicing criminal defense. I had a couple of phenomenal investigators. Uh, Jerry Elshire was the guy that I thought was, and there's another one, Larry Felix, but Jerry was unbelievable. And I used to give him the police reports in these complicated cases, and I'd say, Jerry, go out and win the case for me. And so he'd go out and he'd do astonishing investigative work, better than what you see on TV. And I looked like a brilliant lawyer because I get a not guilty verdict, but it was all Jerry's. Jerry set the whole thing up for me. He'd win the case for me by finding these witnesses or showing someone was lying, and so I'd look like Perry Mason, but it was really all Jerry's doing. He was the one that was going out there and really winning the cases for me. And
So,
you do need a good investigator. This is interesting. People don't
yeah,
realize this. If you're an attorney, you can't testify in a case for your client. So if I didn't have an investigator with me and my client was charged with robbing a bank, and I went over, and my client's a 5 foot tall white guy, and I go and I talk to the bank teller, and he says, "Oh yeah, the guy that robbed me was he was a 6'5" Hispanic." So I say, "Oh, okay, I'm this is going to be great. I'm going to win the case." We get to trial, and the DA says, uh, "Who robbed you?" And she points to my client and says it was a 5 foot tall white guy. I can't get up on the stand and tell the jury that when I talked to her, she described someone completely different. So when you are trying cases, you must bring an I did a lot of my own investigation because I was a special agent for the DA's office at one point, but I would always bring the investigator along because if it turned out that the person changed their story at trial, my investigator could testify, but I couldn't. So you have to have a really, really good investigator if you want to be do a good job as a lawyer.
yeah, I know. I could have used one. Let me tell you. So now we've got Oscar. We got a character that is question mark. There's Oscar and Muriel and Boy Blaine losing for the case. Then we get to the character that watch out. We've got
So,
Alan Kaufman.
well, sure. And there's one of the big things in
Yeah, she's
the book is who is who in the DA's office, because
yeah,
you'll find out in the middle of the book
yeah,
that somebody in the district attorney's office is still dirty, but you don't know who it is. And so there are a number of possibilities, and you don't find out till the very end of the book. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you who it is
yeah,
because that's the big surprise ending.
yeah. I
But
know.
but there's a couple of people who could be um, the criminal who's the double agent inside the DA's office. One of them's Ellen Kaufman, who's one of the chief. She's chief criminal deputy.
Yeah.
Another one is Oscar Vanderlasky,
Huh?
he's the really hopefully the readers will dislike him. I tried to make him as unlikable as possible, but he's the district attorney who prosecuted Karen for the phony drug charge, and he also has got anytime Karen is the lawyer on the other side, he tries to beat her. Fortunately for Karen and Karen's clients, he's pretty incompetent. But I had a good time trying to set him up as as set his character up as someone who's really unlikable.
Yeah, she's hot. She's fantastic. Now we come to it gets really crazy here because you brought in another group of people. We have Walter and Zelda, and who? What are the disciples?
Okay, so
They're
again,
interesting.
like I said, I try to put in a
Yeah,
number of subplots that don't seem to have anything
I
to do with
know.
each other. And this was a bad guy that I really had fun creating. It's always more fun creating villains than good guys. And Walter Zegner is um, he runs the Lucifer's Disciples, which is an outlaw motorcycle gang. And he is movie star handsome. He was the quarterback on a championship high school football team. He's on paper. He's also a member of Mensa. He has a very, very high IQ,
Yeah, I know.
and so he's on paper. He's a that I describe him as the type of person that every parent would wish their daughter would marry, except for one tiny flaw, which is he's a sadistic psychopath. And I'm not going to tell how this works out, why I put this in,
No, you
but
can't.
he's trying to, you'll find out pretty quickly if you read the book, but he's trying to break the world's record for solving a Rubik's Cube. And that comes into play in the book on a number of occasions. Um, and it's not a good thing. But again, I bring in these Lucifer's disciples and this maniac leader who's like absolutely brilliant. And again, I'm hoping that the reader will say, huh? Wait a second. We got the UFOs, we got the stolen Jaguar. Now we
I
got this.
know.
Not what does this have to do with anything? But again, everything does knot together at the very
It
end.
does connect
I promise.
eventually. I have to like the disciples. They added something different. It wasn't the normal murder mystery or anything like that. And I know. And I know that my husband watches the alien programs on
Uh,
television. He loves that stuff. So what can I say? And there's some people that remind me of aliens. That's even better. So we have Jack Blackburn, and he was arrested, and Karen and Morris defend him. And what is the significance of the jaguar and his background? This
Well,
gets more. I have so many questions here. It's going to take me forever to answer them.
well, again, um, Jack gets arrested in the Jaguar,
Yeah.
and he tells the police, "Oh, it's not stolen. It was given to me by this guy at the bar, and whose name he can't remember. But it turns
Yeah.
out that the person who owns the Jaguar is a sort of a shady character, but he's lives in a mansion. And when they go there, they find him uh, in a very interesting way, which again I don't want to tell
No,
because
don't say anything. No.
it would spoil the surprise. But again, Karen is appointed to represent Jack, and the charge is a lot more serious than just simply stealing a car. So I'll leave it at that.
She did everything pretty much by herself. She didn't even want anybody to help her. She sort of went after everything except for more by herself, which is really cool because she's definitely somebody you want on your case. So we have Zegda, and that leads back to the disciples. So how does the DA connect Karen's case, and what was she defending him? And then she gets in danger, so I got nervous there. I don't want anything to
Well,
happen to my character here.
well, again,
You
when
can't give away too much.
yeah, when Karen gets deeply involved with when she starts figuring out who the bad guys are that framed her,
Yeah.
then her life is put in danger. Uh, and she does have someone in the district attorney's office who's helping her, and that person is also her life gets in danger also later on in the book. So again, I always get worried about giving away too many surprises because then it spoils it for the reader.
Now, before I forget, this week is getting tough for me. Tomorrow, Jane Eyre and Krantz, the shop on Hidden Lane. That's a tough book. Next Monday, probably the one of the. Except I have to make sure I have the right glasses because Peter James likes to pick the ones I'm wearing. To be honest, Peter James, Hawk is dead. The king character is Queen Camilla. On the 8th, Arcade Coretta. And on the 12th, the reason why, oh, on the 12th is Michael Butler. They talk about 1940s and Hitler's. It's a really good book of pictures. And on the 14th, the reason why I'm smart, my reading professor and I are going to talk about different strategies for how to teach kids reading, phonics, and stuff like that. He keeps on my toes. The only problem is that I can't pick what we're talking about. He does. And then I have to do the research to know it because I was a student a long time ago, and he says I'm too smart. He tries to get me, but he hasn't yet. So that's tough. So now we've got William Bear, and Moira's here assaulted one of the policemen, and Damien's and Damien Spangman's clubhouse. It gets more intense over here.
Yeah, again, I don't want to get
Yeah,
into too much of the book. It's whenever I get on your show, I have to figure out
yeah,
how to talk about it without
yeah,
giving out. How many times have I been on your show?
yeah,
Gosh, it's been decades, right?
yeah.
I think I've been on it for a while.
I read
By the
every one
way,
of your books, though. All of them.
I should tell you, I'm talking to you from a hotel in Texas because
Yeah, no.
I'm on my book tour. So that has been fun. We've been uh, I did some stuff in Portland where I live, and then I've been in Texas and Dallas and Houston for the last
Nice.
couple of days, and now in San Antonio. So uh, it's interesting getting to other parts of the country to give, to talk about the books.
I was worried about it because of the weather. And I was
Oh,
following the weather in Texas, and I got worried. I said, "Oh my God,
it's
it was
beautiful. It's
over where
beautiful.
you are, yeah, but in other places it's not." And my family is in Florida, so it was really like mixed up. And we got caught with the hurricane last week, and we got
Wow.
caught with part of it. Yeah, we got part of it. And I thanked her for coming here and destroying all the trees and everything. But we didn't lose power. So this is really true because I've heard about this happening, and I begin to wonder when I was in court if people got paid off. So what idea I could get paid off to swing
Well,
the case? And who is Kogan and his wife? I mean, people do that, don't they?
actually, I can tell you now. Again,
Yeah,
I only practiced in Oregon,
yeah,
and I found that the district attorneys and the U.S. attorneys were very honest
yeah,
people. That's not that there wasn't the occasional jerk, because every profession has, it's like a bell curve. You have a lot of brilliant people. Uh, Most of them are just try to do a really good job, and then you do have a couple of bad apples. But
yeah,
um, I can tell you, in Oregon, when I practiced, we hardly had any scandals. We, the only ones I remember, there were two lawyers who were caught bribing police officers to fix driving under the influence cases. And we had one judge. This will give you an idea how low grade our scandals are, who used official stationery to contest the bill from Nordstrom's. So that was our that was our biggest judicial scandal, and we did have those two lawyers who got disbarred because of uh, bribing people. But uh, most of the, I would say, the vast majority of the U.S. attorneys and district attorneys are extremely honest, hardworking people. I had a lot of disagreements with them about cases, but I never felt that it was because they were being dishonest. Just they saw things a little differently than I did. So in the books, you have to have conflict. And
yes,
my
I know. Otherwise, you get bored.
Yeah, my wife said, "Well, why don't you write a book about a happy family?" And I said, "No one wants to read about a happy family. They
Nobody
want,
wants a happy book,
yeah."
and nobody wants a book that hasn't have conflict. It's like, oh God, I did. I read a couple and I put them back, and then there was some. Well, your books are believable, but there are some books that I've read recently that I can't review this. This like makes no sense. You got to be kidding. That couldn't really happen. They hate when I do that. They
But
really hate.
I try to make my
Yeah,
characters as realistic and
they are.
the legal stuff as realistic as possible. But again, if I didn't have bad guys, everybody would get bored and would hate the book. So I have to have bad guys as well as good
Yeah.
guys.
Well, the bad guys sometimes are more fun than the good guys. In
Yeah,
some
it's
of the
like
books I've been reading, yeah. And I just got Mark Reaney's new book, the Court Gentry book. It's coming out in February. And I've got to go over to the post office to find out why I'm not getting my titles.
nah,
They're not, I don't know why. A lot of the publishers are saying we sent them, and I know because it says it on my phone when it was, sent. Didn't get them. So I was
huh.
lucky I got yours, and I really, well, Hector's good. And I was lucky I got his, and I go like, where's the rest of them? I can't interview the people unless I have the book. That doesn't help. So now we've got Julie Sullivan, and who is Cynthia and why protect her, and how does that play out? And somebody doesn't exactly get absolved, now do they? We can't absolve everybody.
No, and again, the big surprise at the end of the
Yeah,
book is who the bad guy is, and it's very complicated because there is more than one murder.
yeah,
There's a bunch of murders that take place, and uh, there's I try to add more and more suspects so that it's you initially think who the bad guy is, but I try to make it as complicated as possible, and then there's a big clue. I'm not going to tell what it is, but I grew up reading Ellery Queen. I don't know how many people who are watching this know who Ellery Queen was,
oh, they
but,
will.
but back in the I think 30s, 40s, and 50s, he was it's actually not a he, it's two people, Manfred Lee and Frederick Ney. They were cousins, I think, and they wrote under the pseudonym Ellery Queen. And when I was a kid, in elementary school, I started reading mysteries, and I got hooked on them because Ellery Queen always put clues in, and they weren't easy to pick up. But if you could pick up the clues, you could always tell who the killer was. And so in my books, I try to put in some
Yeah.
clue, and I try to mask it so it's not that easy to pick up. But there's a huge clue um, that gets dropped in the middle of the book, and if you pick up on it, you can figure out who the killer is. And that's what I have Karen do. Uh, there's two possible people who could be the killers, and she remembers this one particular incident and is able to solve the solve the mystery of who the murderer is. So that was fun for me, and that's one of the things that I work hardest at is trying to figure out how to put something in there that's not too super obvious, but if you can figure it, if you spot it, you can figure out who the killer is. And that I do that because I had so much fun growing up uh, trying to solve these mysteries.
But wait till they read the last chapter. You're gonna wonder. That got me. I was like, holy God! Now, what Morris is there, and how do we know that this is untrue? And who dares to hurt my Karen? I was worried about her, but I know you're not going to kill her off.
Oh, Karen, and
She's going to come back, isn't she? Are you going to do another one?
I'm actually thinking of doing that. I'm working on.
You got to do another one.
Well, what it's interesting. I got there was a situation when I first went with St. Martin's
Uh huh.
that enabled me to get a whole year ahead with my books. Uh, so I actually, False Witness is my 28th novel, which I find amazing because
That's
ever,
amazing. Yeah.
I never ever growing up thought I'd ever write a book. It was never even on my radar that I'd be a writer. And the idea that I've got 28 books published is like I still like laugh at it. I say, how's that possible? But my 29th book, which is a stand, it brings back a character from some of my earlier books, but that's in New York, and I'm working on number 30. I'm about 400 pages in, and that's a Karen Wyatt. I decided to try to bring her back because I really like the character. People seem to be really enjoying it. I've been reading. You get I don't know how many people know about this, but before the book comes out, your publisher uh, sends out what's called an ARC. It's an advanced reading copy to people. They get it for free on condition that they write an honest review on Goodreads. And I find a lot of the people that enjoyed the book, and even some that did like Karen Wyatt. So I thought maybe I'd bring her back. And the book I'm working on now, about 430 pages in, is a Karen Wyatt, but it won't come out for 2 years because I got number 29 in New York.
Yeah, you got to bring her back because otherwise, what's the point? But silly,
Yeah.
there was Charlie that you made a book about. Though I love that character. There was a guy named Charlie.
Oh, you mean
I
Charlie
read that
Webb?
a long time ago too. I told you
Well,
I read everything, and what gets my husband crazy is I forget nothing.
well, Charlie Webb was in the
Yeah.
Insignificant Case, and that's a
Robin's got to
standalone.
come back again, but I want to see Robin and Karen together.
Yeah. It's what I try to do, and this is I actually in a lot of my books have very strong women characters in the
Yeah,
lead. I have the Amanda Jaffe series, the Dana Cutler series, Robin Lockwood, and now Karen. And uh, I got a lot of criticism, not a lot, but occasional criticism. They said more women read than men. So are you pandering to women by putting in women? And I'm not. Uh, with each book, I try to figure out who would be the best main character. So sometimes, like with an Insignificant Case, it's a male, Charlie Webb.
yeah,
Uh, but in False Witness, I thought a woman main character would be a really good person to stick in. So I for each book I try to figure out uh, what character would make the book work best. And in False Witness, it just turned out it was a female character, but in an insignificant case, Charlie Webb, a male, turns out to be the best person to run with the story.
Well, before we end, define false witness. The title. That's that.
Oh,
I knew right. I knew right away. It's like, oh my God! And then if you read the last chapter, you're gonna say, I don't know.
well, the false witness actually has to do with the person who testified against Karen
Yeah,
when she was framed and sent to prison. It's a member. It's a someone, and you. I'm not giving anything away. Could you find
no,
this
you
out right
can't.
away? But it's a member. It was someone in the Oregon State Crime Lab who was bribed because he
That's
was a
better.
cocaine addict and he was stealing cocaine. And the people in this conspiracy who wanted to frame Karen uh, threatened to turn him into the police if he didn't help them. So he's the false witness. He was the one who testified at Karen's trial
Yeah.
and was the main reason why she was convicted and sent to prison. So that's where the title comes from. Uh, in the very first chapter, you learn that this person was a false witness. He lied under oath.
You know what? Guess what? That my deposition was a bunch of baloney, and she came up with questions that on people that I never even knew, and she even came up with doctors that I never went to. But you
Right.
know what? Oh yeah, let me tell you, I got her. And I refused to answer the question. And then when I got the deposition, I refused to sign it until I corrected everything. And at that point, I said, I'm not doing this. I can't sign anything because they never sent me the copy. Plus, the two dentists, they never sent me that. And the dentist said he didn't see any anomalies in the x-rays. And those were his x-rays that proved that the thing was in my jaw.
Uh,
So I said, you know what? That just proves that sometimes don't things work out. So I can't wait for what's next. I really can't wait for what's next. And when is the next one coming out? Anytime soon?
well, Minotaur, my publisher, has been putting the books out in November.
Yeah, I
So,
know. Hector told
so
me.
yeah, so I'm assuming that that's I don't. I just write them.
I know.
I send them in.
Hector
I
sends them
send them to New
anyway.
York, and then they do whatever they want with me. So, but I'm assuming that the next book will come out a year from now in November. And like I said, I'm uh, uh, the book's in New York with my editor Keith Kayla, who's a brilliant. He's probably the best mystery editor in the country, and I've been really lucky to have uh, Keith be the editor at Minotaur because he's really helped make the books. People don't know this. The first draft of my books are usually horrible, and I need all the help I can get. And I have a really great editor who beats me up and uh, makes me, really rethink what I'm doing. And so the books I think come out pretty good, but I get a lot of help from various people. My Jennifer Welch, who's my agent, is a brilliant editor. Also, she's usually my first read. Keith's fabulous. He just, like I said, if you think the books are really, really good, a lot of it has to do with having a really, really good editor. Um, so I've been lucky there. Hector DeJean, who you work with, who's my publicist, is great. So I've been very fortunate to have a really good team um, at Minotaur. Uh, but they're the ones that make all the business decisions. I just write the stuff, and uh, they like I said, they've been releasing the books in November. Maybe because that's around Christmas season or whatever. But uh, that the next one should come out around 1 year from now.
You're lucky because my last book is called Inverted Reality. It's total horror. and I'm very proud of so I was very proud of myself. I meet a lot of people in the world that are evil, and they do the wrong thing. So I created 26 stories, 26 people that did the wrong thing. And I said in the story, I made them look in the mirror. And I said, if you don't repent and change your ways and do this deed over again, you'll be a face in the mirror forever replaying it. And nobody understood it. I mean, over 200 people maybe bought the book and said it was good, but nobody put a review on Amazon. And I was like, whatever. I wrote it because I feel that people need to know to hurt other people is wrong. And the people that published my book did not do anything. All they called them to edit cost me $1,800 for them to edit the book
Right.
and do nothing. And then they put it on Amazon, and I said, so what? They didn't do anything, so it doesn't matter. I haven't decided if I'm writing another one, but reviewing books is fantastic. Doing the streams, I just thought to do this in January because Blog Talk went down on January 31st. So I did my first one on February 2nd, and it was scary because I never did this before. And I said, oh my God, they have to see my face. Oh my God, they have to see my face. Some people look at me like, oh, and some people say, oh, your hair looks really cool, different colors. And some people, but Phil, thank you so much.